Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Mike Vassallo from Yeah, What's the Rate? This is another episode that we're about to air, and I have guest Leana Visalli from Gale right down the block here in Northport. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, thanks
How's
for having
everything
me.
going?
Very good.
Thank you. Happy first day of spring.
Thank you. Happy spring.
Thank you for coming on. I always like to start the podcast asking how you got into being a real estate agent.
So it was about 15 years ago. I was living in Manhattan. I have a lot of friends at the time who were in real estate, and I was actually in pharmaceutical sales. And we were always talking real estate. They're like, You would be perfect at real estate. And I was like, I don't know. I was kind of like stuck in my career at the time. And I said, you know what? I'll just get my license and see how I feel.
Okay.
So I started the course, and then I met my husband. And it was sort of a whirlwind after that. We got married quickly, we got engaged quickly, got married quickly, and had kids quickly.
Okay.
So then we had 3 kids in 3 years.
Oh, God.
So kind of put a little hold on me getting my license.
Right.
But I'm a worker. I knew I can't not work, and I did not want to go back into pharmaceutical sales.
Okay.
I was home with 3 babies, and I said, you know what? I always was so interested in my real estate conversations. I always kept up with the market.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. So when our daughter was a baby, really, I went back, got my license, and have been full-time,
That's
a
awesome.
full-time real estate agent.
All right.
I'm actually a real estate broker at this point, but that's how I originally got into real estate.
All right.
Yeah.
So you had like the background of sales. I kind of always say like if you're in sales, like whether it's, whatever it may be, if you have that gift of being able to speak and approach people and you really could sell anything. Do you find that it was similar or was it different?
I think that sales is very similar. I think that what the part that I loved about being in pharmaceutical sales was interacting with the doctors.
Okay.
So I am a people person. I need to be, and I did sell insulin, so it was something I felt good about.
Okay.
And real estate, I just love helping people. So it's a combination. It's a good combination of helping people with their largest asset, oftentimes, as well as, educating them and walking them through the process.
Yeah, there's that feeling of like sense of accomplishment or gratitude that you're almost becoming like a part of a lot of their families to a degree.
Absolutely.
You're working with them for months. It could be years, to find them and place them in that home and stuff. So it definitely is rewarding. You said earlier, so you've already been 8 years.
8 years.
8 years in the industry.
8 years in the industry, and a lot has changed
over
the last 8 years.
Yep.
But it's great education to go through the different markets. When I first started, my first listing, I was at an open house and nobody came. I was waiting there. I couldn't wait. It was my first
what's
listing.
going on? What am I doing?
Not one person walked in the door. And boy, things have changed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Now you're with Gale. Now,
I am.
Why Gale? Did you do interviews? Did you go to other offices and other companies before making the decision to hook up with Gale?
Yes, I did. I interviewed a lot of companies.
Okay.
In real estate, it's interesting because it's not like a regular job where you go and you interview and they hope they take you. As a real estate broker, I was interviewing them.
Yeah.
So I wanted a company that fit who I am and my values and my style. And not knocking any other companies, but I lived on the Upper East Side right next to Sotheby's, the auction house, for many years when I lived in Manhattan. And I just thought they were just quality, class and quality.
Yeah.
So when I went to interview with Gale, it was a no-brainer for me. The beautiful marketing, the luxury brochures, and the global reach. That was important for me.
That I think is kind of cool. I mean, that they have that ability.
It is. And I went to Boston University, which is one of the most diverse schools in the country. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my, people that I knew were from other countries. So having that global reach allows me to help people I know transact all over the world. When I go on vacation with my family, we see all the Sotheby's offices. And to have that affiliation is unmatched. And one of the biggest things that drew me to Gale was luxury at every price point. So yes, I will sell your $2 million house, but I will also sell your $200,000 condo.
Right.
And when that happens, the buyer and the seller, they get the same luxury
regardless of price point. Right, regardless of it. Yeah.
And I think, that's something that maybe people don't realize about Gale, but it's the same commissions and things like that. But you get the luxury is an experience. It's not just a number. So we offer that luxury
To
experience
everyone,
at every price
to every
point.
single person, right? It's not just like, oh, this is a $2 million listing and we're going to do this for you, but we don't do that for the $200,000 condo.
Correct.
It's the same across the board.
And that was
Yeah.
really important to me.
I like how you said that, like, you interview the brokerage, because I never really thought of it that way, of you asking them, like, well, what do you have to offer me rather than what you have to offer them? Because, like you said, everything is different. Like, there's certain things that you might have found that was more important to you, no matter what they were offering. That might not be something that you found beneficial to how you're going to build your business.
Correct. It had to match.
Yeah.
Because coming back, after having kids and wanting to devote my life to something like this, it needed to be a good match.
Yeah, it needed to. Yeah. And a Financial X, so I've been with Financial X 15 years. And everyone's like, you've never been anywhere else. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you know what? I didn't know what I was doing when I first started. I learned from the ground up and everything. But even now I look as, a veteran in the industry, if you want to call it, you see all the different other, there's other mortgage companies, obviously, and everyone offers their own thing, whether it's social media, education. And I think it's similar with the real estate side. Every different company has its own thing that they try to tout. And for me, it was more of the mom and pop. I didn't the fact that everything was kind of in-house and there was a relationship with everyone and stuff. That was a thing that really drew me into financial equities. And I've been here ever since.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
And
it's
that's
interesting.
we have options.
Yeah.
And I just love that I do know the CEO. I have access, we just have access to the marketing teams, and when we need something done, it gets done, and it gets done in a beautiful, careful way.
You have a presence, even if you're not in real estate, I feel like Daniel Gale has that, you were saying, from the Sotheby's aspect of it or whatever. It's just known, whether it's the real estate, the auction house, the whatever it may be, it's just a global name. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So 8 years like that too. And
Blink of
going
an
back
eye.
to what you said, you started off, then you experienced COVID.
Yes.
Now we're almost 5 years out of COVID now. Yeah.
If you can believe it.
It's crazy,
it's
right?
5,
I
yes.
mean, it's unbelievable when you think about
wild.
it. But it's been a roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster. And now, as the spring market approaches, or as we say, it's here. What are you experiencing? What are you seeing? Buyers, sellers? What is a snapshot of?
Well, I was mentioning to you before, so it is more vital than ever for the buyers to be qualified. And qualified just doesn't mean to have the money. It means to get them in the best possible position to win the offer.
Right.
And as you know, looking at the whole picture is vital. Can we get them pre-approved? Can we get them pre-committed? Are they, are they able to waive anything?
Yeah.
Waiving
That's been huge.
is
That's
been
been
the
the
wave
big
of
thing, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I would never suggest that a buyer waive something that they're not comfortable with.
Correct. Yeah, agreed.
It has to be the right situation, but getting them as close to cash right now is the trend.
Yeah.
And the sellers, it's been a little difficult, as we know. The golden handcuffs. They got their low interest rate back in 5 years ago. They don't want to leave. But if these sellers really do have another option to go somewhere, whether it's down south or maybe a condo, maybe they're in a different chapter of their life, it is such a good time for them to sell. And I know people are scared, and it's a huge move, but it really could affect their future financially. They can really, this is their biggest asset, especially if they've owned their home for 10, 20, 30
the equity
years.
just in the last couple of years on top of the baby boomers who bought those houses for probably 200,000, 100,000, whatever it may be. Now, now is the time, without a doubt.
It's their retirement.
But there's all those other variables that come into place. They want to stay close to the grandkids.
Right.
They don't want to go down south, or do they want to go down south? So I feel like that's kind of been a real struggle for most when you have that conversation. And what I was saying to you before, over the last week, we've had clients who own homes, who have the golden handcuffs, which I did last time we were on this podcast that we spoke about. And the fact that the client is saying, hey, what if I don't sell my house and tap into the equity, do a home equity line of credit, take the equity I have, use that money to have the down payment for the new house, and I'll keep my house at 3% and rent it out and have that as an investment property. So that's something that's
That's
it's not a
fantastic.
bad idea. Now you have to decide, do you want to be a landlord? Do you want to go down that road? But if you're really not, keen on having to lose that rate, there are other maybe options. So
There are other options. And listen, rents are pretty high right now. For a seller, they're getting pretty
brutal.
amazing
Yeah,
rents,
yeah,
and there's very
yeah.
little rental sales inventory and rental
There's
inventory.
nothing.
So
There's nothing.
it is a great financial move.
Yeah, yeah. And you want to know something too? Is like I had conversations now as well. Is family had two kids. The wife is pregnant. They're expecting. He's like, I have my 3% rate, but I'm in a ranch. It is what it is. I have to swallow the pill. I'm selling the house. We're moving. Like it is what it. And it's coming to that point where I think no matter what, if when your life changes or things happen in your day to day, you have to adapt. So
That's
if
it.
you can't keep the house, you don't want to rent it, then you're going to sell it, and you're going to have to go and swallow the pill of having that 6% or 6.5% rate, and you'll refi. The rates are not going to stay like this forever. Hopefully, knock on wood. But when they do, you'll refi.
And quite honestly, renovations are very expensive. I love a reno. I love a reno.
Yeah.
But the renovation costs are not what they were either.
Right.
So,
And then you have to live in the house while the renovation's going on. So that's also an added stress too. So do you want to you want to go that route, you know? So it's definitely been a roller coaster, and it seems to continue to be that way, right?
it does continue at the moment.
Are you doing anything different? So from what the market was to now, like when you're onboarding like a new buyer or even having a listing presentation for someone who's interested in selling, is it different than what you're like? Is the process for you what you were doing to now similar?
So
or?
it is a bit different. You know, for the sellers, they are in a little bit more of a elevated position as a seller. So, you know, strategizing it is when do we put it on? When offers need to be in by. It's a little less stressful for the sellers than it used to be. Okay. You know, are we pricing it right? Are we going to get any offers? Are people going to come in? I mean, pricing is always the key. So no matter what anyone tells you, overpricing a house is usually a kiss of death.
Yeah. You're almost better going under and let the bidding war and let it ramp up. I mean, the market will dictate the value at this point. I think I don't really think you have to go in with a crazy high number. I've seen a few agents actually underlist it, which created you know, which is, you know, and it's not a bad strategy. I mean, you know, I know people that see that listing, they'll all go right into the open house, but you know that it's 100,000 under what it's supposed to be.
Well, I think that's part of is setting the expectations for my buyers. So for me, I mean, and what makes me who I am, I get very close with my buyers and my sellers. So with regard to my buyers, we have to be realistic. You know, I'm not trying to sell them a dream that's not realistic. Yeah. We have to set our expectations. So, for example, if your budget's 800, we should not be looking necessarily. We could look at 800, but realize it might be 900. It might be 910, 920.
Or you have to look at 7 if you're maxing out at 8.
That's right.
Because that's where you're going to have to go.
That's right. But it doesn't mean we can't go and look. It's just let's be realistic about where these offers are coming in. Because, you know, when I'm on the sales side, when I'm on the listing side, I have sometimes spreadsheets of 17 offers, you know, which is a beautiful thing for my sellers. So, you know, I think for myself, one of the things that I don't do is you're not getting a lockbox on the door. Unless the seller wants that for some reason or the seller's not showing the house for you. You know, no matter what market it is, even though it's a seller's market at the moment, you're not getting the seller to open. I'm not getting the seller to open the door. It is, you've hired me. It is my job to come in there, show all the home improvements that you've done. People put their love into their house. And for me, that is one of the things that hands down is not happening. I'm not doing a lockbox.
And I think your seller appreciates that because they also then see the time and the effort and energy you put in. So now when you have those 17 offers, you know, how are you sitting down now and going over all of that to then determine which is the strongest? Sometimes the most money down isn't always the strongest, you know, and everyone always says that, like, oh, well, they're putting down, I gave you that scenario before. You would think the guy was putting down $1.5 million as down payment. That's a shoo-in. And it wasn't. You know, so there's a lot of things, you know, with the pre-commitment letter that we do at Financial Equities, and a lot of banks have adopted something similar or whatnot to try to, again, make those clients' offers as strong as possible. I'm calling the listing agent up, introducing myself, asking them if they have any questions, going over what the pre-commitment is because some agents don't know. Right. So explaining that we've looked at the W-2s, we ran their credit, we have their pay stubs, the underwriter has looked at their file, not just me as the loan officer. Whatever we can do to get them to their offer to shine a little bit brighter than the 17 other, that's what we're doing. Where back when, as the mortgage bank, we never really had to do that.
Right.
You got your pre-commitment letter. If you needed something, call. But now it's become a part of our process that we're calling every single listing agent, whether they answer the phone, they don't, we're texting them. We're doing that now as a bank where we never used to, you know.
Well, that's the important thing. I think, like for yourself, you're on my list of meet my team, right? So it's important to have a team behind you. So it's not just me. I have a great administrative assistant, managers, mortgage people,
Attorneys,
inspectors, attorneys.
Yeah.
It's not just here, put in an offer and that's the end of it. There's a whole slew of things that has to get done to make it a whole package, a pretty little bow on top.
And I think it helps also too, like, we were going back to networking the other day. We were speaking about as agents, how important it is to network and come to these networking events. If you're at an event and you meet with someone and then let's say 3 weeks later, they see you put an offer in on their listing and they're like, oh my God, I met Leana. She's great people. Those things are making the difference in this
100%.
market. That attorney, it's a great attorney. I love him. He always answers the phone, or whatever it may be. Those are the things that I'm finding that is really setting the difference between whether or not the offers are getting accepted or not accepted.
1,000,000%. We all work together in this industry, even agents out there. It's a lot better when it's all pleasant.
Yes.
And we know how each other transact, and it really should. We try to make it as seamless as possible for both the buyer and the seller. And by having a team, by having good people around you, it makes the whole experience
without a
better.
doubt. We always laugh. I say, so real estate agents have to kind of play nice in the sandbox with one another because of circumstances like we just said. On the banking end, for one lender to know another lender, there's really no benefit. Most of us have the same products, maybe a little bit different, but we always laugh like there's not that networking within the industry just because there's really no benefit. It's just funny like that. But yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride. It's been crazy. The Fed just announced yesterday that the rates are remaining unchanged. So basically, it's not a bad thing. It's not great. Obviously, we wanted them to say that they're going to be lowering them, but the fact that they're not raising them and we're staying this way, that basically translates that hopefully we're in like the mid sixes, low sixes throughout the spring and summer market. So it's not terrible. And it's much better
than it was.
It's much better than what it was last time this year. I mean, we were in the sevens.
Yeah.
So is it really where we want to be just yet? No, but we're trending that way.
Which is great.
So, yeah.
That's what we can ask for, and make it work in the meantime.
Yeah, and that's it. And again, I use the analogy. No one wants to live in mom and dad's basement. Nobody wants to rent if they don't have to for the rest of their life. So if you're able and the numbers work, don't focus so much on what the interest rate is. What is my payment? Can you afford that payment?
That's right.
If you can afford the payment, then do it. But don't worry about whether the rate's 3% or 8%. Run the numbers on what that payment is and then make the decision off of that monthly payment, whether or not you could afford it. If you have that mindset and not are so focused on, is the rate 6%, is 6.25%, that's the most important thing. But again, getting a buyer to understand that and swallow that pill, that's what I'm trying to really have them focus on. And I think the education has become more important than anything when onboarding a new client, really explaining to them the entire process of the different loan programs, the rates, the payments, what the market is like. Because when I say it, then they go back to you, you're reiterating kind of the same version of what I already told them. So now they're hearing it twice.
Well, previously, speaking of markets before COVID, I guess, and post-COVID, we didn't speak that much. We didn't need to speak as much about the money. Yeah. And now it's something that I just keep continually trying to educate myself on. We speak, I try to stay up to date on that because it is, can we make this work?
Yeah, it's tough. Now, also a part of this whole, obviously, podcast and stuff is social media driven.
Yes.
So for me, I've always fooled around with social media, if you will, but I've never really taken it. I felt like with the real estate and mortgages and stuff, as we get older.
Yes.
Which is unfortunate.
Yes.
But I still feel like I'm 18.
It's not
but
happening.
whatever.
It's not happening.
But as we get older and want to stay relevant in our market share and stuff, it's like I feel like having presence on social media has been a huge thing. Now, my kids make fun of me constantly and think I'm stupid and I'm silly or whatever, but how do you feel about like social media? And I know you do a decent amount of it as well.
You've seen my page.
Yeah, I know. But
social
media. What's your take on it?
I think it's fantastic. When in life am I able to see my friends from kindergarten that I haven't seen in
20, 30 years?
Well, we won't talk ages, but I've been very blessed to live a big life, right? Yeah. So I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to Kellenberg for high school. I went to Boston University. I lived in Manhattan.
Right.
You know, I've had other careers. So I've been blessed to live this big life that I can't just call everybody
Right.
every
But
day.
you can see them on
But I
social
see-
media.
And I
Right.
love that I can
Yeah.
see their kids and their families. And I can't even express to you how much business I've gotten from social media because how else would I've been
They
able
would
to
have never
reach
known.
them.
That's how I look at it. It's like out of sight, out of mind. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And that's the thing, that it's such a cool reach where it's like I work with, like, people I went to high school with, elementary school with,
Yeah.
that we were friends. Maybe we grew apart or we were acquaintances, but through social media, watching their kids grow, my kids grow. Hey, I need help. We're moving. We know you do mortgages, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Where it's like if I didn't have that platform, they wouldn't even know what I was doing. So
Totally.
it's something that, I think that it's super important. I don't want to become an influencer by any means, or a YouTuber or any of that stuff, where I know my kids would love to.
Right.
But I think it's just important to have some sort of presence on there.
I know
That's
a lot
all.
of real estate agents will only have their business page, and I have one,
Yeah.
but my main page is me.
Yes.
And I think that you're going to what you see on my social media is often what you're going to see when you work with me.
It's you. It's
me.
authentic. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
who I.
Yeah.
I can only be
Yep.
one person.
Yeah.
I can only be me.
I agree.
So,
I agree with that. So I had made a business page and then I took it down because I'm like, you know what? No. I'm like, I'm not going to let me post this on my business page and on my personal page. I'm like, I'm authentic. What you see is what you get. I said, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a mortgage banker. Like, this is it.
That's
Take
it.
it or leave it. And again, it's like, there's nothing there that I have to hide. But at least when you get to see me, it's authentic Mike.
Yes.
And then take it or leave it. I may be a cup of tea. I may not be a cup
That's
of
right.
tea. But at least now you could create an identity with me when you speak to me on the phone. I sometimes have clients that I could see that like went on my social media and looked at me and then called me. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I get it. I do the same thing. We're all nosy to that, thing. Want to know, who is this person? Like, what do they do?
Google.
Like, where do they, right. You just type in their name, they pop up.
Right.
So I think it's important. And as we get older in this industry, we have to remain somewhat, present, if you will.
I think that people want to know the real you. And, when I'm doing a deal, it's business, but I'm human. We keep it human. I've cracked up, crying, laughing with my clients, and we've cried. Sad things, happy things. So, we talked about it before, like becoming a family. I've made some lifelong friends by just working together that I wasn't friends with. And we talking about social media. Maybe I wasn't friends with them. Now we are.
Now you became friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these are.
It's cool.
It's a really rewarding. When you get into someone's life like that and you made an impact, and then you could be forever friends.
I love it. And I always say, like, retirement or whatever it may be, like, I truly love what I do. So I don't know. Like, I don't ever, like, how many friends do you have that, like, oh, it's Monday, this sucks, I have to go to work? I have a lot. And I have to say, like, I love what I do. So I don't care whether it's Monday, it's Friday, it's Wednesday, if it's the weekend. I mean, for me, we're always working, we're always on, but I truly enjoy what I do. Is it stressful at times? Sure. Are we laughing sometimes, crying sometimes? Yeah, of course. We all want to, whatever. But overall, it's like, it's really enjoyable. So I don't really have that stress where I'm like, oh, it's Monday morning. I'm like, all right, it's no different than Sunday or Saturday for me. I'm like, we just go through those motions,
Yeah. And I mean, for me, having the flexibility, being a mom of three, this is the best career for me. I mean, I do work nights. I do work a lot of weekends.
Yes, you're always on. You're always
I'm
on.
always on.
Yeah.
Transacting in the bathroom during dinner. Just had to go to the bathroom. But my kids, they, for a long time, I felt bad. And, I felt like I was being pulled away from my kids many times. There was like, especially like the crazy markets. And, one day I'm laying in bed with my oldest and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I missed your game. Like, he's like, Mom, you're a badass. And I was like, you know what? I have 2 boys, a girl. I'm doing what I love.
Doing it all, right. Doing it all.
It's just a great message to them to do something that makes you happy and that makes a difference in people's lives, and like they feel supported and
for your son to say that at such a young age, to recognize that is awesome.
It is.
So I pulled my 2. I asked all 3, but Maddie, the oldest, didn't want to miss school. But the other 2, I pulled out of school last week, Thursday, Friday, to go snowboarding. And I'm like, let's go. We've got 2 more days of the past. Let's do it. And it was Thursday, and I didn't tell anybody where I was. And guess what? I worked that entire day, and the kids were laughing because every time we got on the lift, my phone would come out. I
Yeah.
was either on the phone, I'm on the phone, and I'm like, oh, the lift is getting off. I had to hang up, boom, go down the hill, do it again. And I was on the phone, and I said to them, like, Dad, you've been on the phone all day today. I'm like, but look what we're doing.
Exactly.
I said, look at this. I said, it's 60 degrees. We're snowboarding. We're together. We're on the lift. You can't make this up. I said, you can't. This is, you know what I mean? I said, that's why I love what I do. I said, because guess what? I could do the same thing again and again and again, and I get to spend time with you. To me, that's priceless.
Exactly. I'm on the PTA. I'm very involved in the school. I wouldn't be able to do that if I had a 9 to 5.
So going into the city, taking the train home, you would never be able to.
Right.
You couldn't do that stuff, you know? And as these kids get older, and our kids are almost the same ages, you know, there's going to become a time where now they're like, we're not cool anymore, and they want to go venture out and be with their friends. And all.
It's not
I know. I
possible.
hope that. I always say, I'm like, come on. I always think I am. I feel like I try to be, but whatever it may be. But I want them always to want to hang out with me, and maybe they won't want to at some point because they want to be with their friends. They want to do their thing, and they're going to get cars. They're going to do. So if I could get this time now with them,
Totally. It's priceless.
I'll pull them out of school any day. I really will. I know,
Exactly.
like my parents are teachers, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "You know what? Let me live my life." I said, "They're doing just great." I was like, "And you know what? You're gonna blink, and before you know it, you know they're gonna be adults." So I know. It's crazy. And then the conversation. No, do your kids ever talk about maybe wanting to do what you do? Do they have like a love hate for it? Like,
So I can't even tell you how many times that I'm sitting on MLS or Matrix now,
Right.
and we're looking at houses, and my son's like, "Okay, let me guess how much that is." You know, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. He wants to. One of them wants to be a lawyer. One wants to maybe be an architect. So
you got a
maybe
whole thing going
yeah,
here.
I'm gonna like a whole new
I love it,
construction
too.
and
I
a
love
lawyer,
it.
real estate lawyer.
Like I said, I think it's a great thing. I think being an entrepreneur, doing the sales aspect of it is something that like my parents' generation really didn't teach us. Like it was like get a job that has a pension, get a job that has you know retirement, health benefits and stuff. And now this like has opened my eyes. Like there's a lot more out there than just that. So when my kids say that they're interested in it, I would never frown upon it and stuff. It's the do it.
Well, I will tell you, if you were to ask any one of my kids, does mommy like dread going to work?
Right.
They would never say yes.
Right.
I'm never complaining about it. Not never, if I'm not feeling good or something.
Yes,
but
there's always that.
They know that I'm excited, that it
Every day's a
brings
new
me
day.
joy.
Yeah.
It brings me joy, and that is a role model I want to be to them.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know you said you were nervous, but see, it's not bad.
Thank
Everybody
you for
that comes
having
on,
me.
everyone's just like,
it's
good. It's fun.
Being in front
it's
of
fun.
the camera,
It's good. It's good. So thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. Thank you for the continued support. Follow us on your social medias if you don't already. I don't know. You're on Instagram, Facebook.
Instagram and Facebook.
And thank you for tuning in. We'll talk soon. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.